It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Welcome to the Happy Families podcast. I'm so excited to be able to talk about episode 3 of Parental Guidance. My name's Dr. Justin Coulson. Hopefully you've been watching the show. I'm the co-host and parenting expert on the show. And I loved last night's episode. Kylie, my wife, mum to our 6 kids. Yeah, what have you got?
Oh, I've got a question for you.
Right.
Because last night we were introduced to 4 new parents.
Yes.
Who were your favourites?
From last night or from last week?
No, from last week. We had the lighthouse parents, the honest parents, the gentle parents and the outback parents.
All right.
And I thought I knew who my favourites were.
Right.
But I think it's changed.
Oh, so I have to say that I like them all. Like, I think they're all great in their own way, and they've all got their problems in their own way as well. And that's what we're having the TV show for. Who did you enjoy learning from the most?
It wasn't about learning from them.
No, right. You're just watching it for the TV entertainment factor. Okay, who'd you like the most? Quick, let's do it.
I can't pick.
You're so funny. I can't believe you. You're putting me on the spot and you won't choose.
Well, I was waiting to hear what you had to say.
Oh,
look, I love them all.
Yeah.
And I'm learning.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm learning from them all.
That's what I'm saying. That's why the show's so good.
But
You're hopeless. I can't believe you're doing this.
Look, I love Kat.
Okay.
She is just this raw, like literally raw-edged, completely rough diamond.
Right.
Who is so
And she's doing it on her own.
upfront.
Doing it on her own with 2 twin kids, one who is neurodivergent and definitely gives her a hard time.
And then you've got the lighthouse parents.
Yeah.
And
I love them.
I love them.
Yeah.
I love them. And do you know, it's as you watch the kids interact that your love for the parents grows even more.
Because you see how great those kids are.
And that can only happen because there's love.
Okay.
Like it all boils down to love. And every single parent on the show just loves their kids.
And then you've got, David and Tensi, the Outback parents.
Hands down. I would have loved to have driven a car at 8.
That's right.
They work on bikes, they work on cars, they ride horses, ride cows. Go, Fancy.
Oh, the fence!
But the life skills that they're
When you see the
learning.
heart of Larissa and Marcus, the gentle parents, just stunning.
Yeah.
Amazing.
We allow them to express their opinions just like we express ours.
No! You aren't allowed to pause!
But last night,
Yeah.
we were introduced to the next 4.
So we've got the stage parents, Shane and Sarah.
We encourage our children's individuality, creativity and independence.
Stage parenting is mostly fun. When it comes to performing, I think a lot of parents think their kid is better than what they are. Okay, my turn.
Talent alone is useless if you don't practice it. You know, a bike gets rusty if you don't ride it. It's that simple.
And then we have the influencers, Jonathan and Kat.
We lead by example and we use technology to really connect rather than separate.
If you've been on TikTok, if you've been on Instagram and you've seen some really successful people and how they use the platform, the future is only going to move more in that direction.
I think education is key. Teaching my kids what to look out for and keeping them safe is important.
Very provocative couple, but they look good. And I don't mean from a physical point of view. I mean as a family in the show. Okay, well, they probably look good that way as well. But they look good in terms of I loved what Chris and Philippa said. Oh, yeah, we were pretty worried about those influencer parents.
Yeah.
But they're on it. They've got it together.
So then we have the spiritual parents, Deepak and Kajal.
We believe that our children are sparks of the divine, and we look towards Lord Krishna or God to guide us with our parenting and everything else we do. Spiritual parenting means parenting to the needs of the child on the physical level, on the intellectual level, and also on the spiritual level. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama. It's not just us raising kids. The kids are raising us spiritually.
Oh my goodness. I just want to wrap them up. They're just gorgeous.
Totally.
Gorgeous.
And-
Absolutely gorgeous.
And then our team parents.
We have 6 children and we're trying to raise them like our little own footy team. Oh, was that a knock on? Get him!
I coach in rugby league, so our family is a sporting team family and that's how we parent. Play on. We believe respect, repetition, discipline, they're all the fundamentals that make our team what we are.
Yep. Yes, the ball!
Good job, Bob.
And I staged an intervention with them in the studio. I mean, things got pretty hot in that studio. Mark and
We
Leanne.
have got lots to talk about.
All
So
right.
where do you want to start?
I think we have to start with the intervention. So this all starts when, for those of you who are overseas couldn't see it, or those of you who were still sort of waiting to catch up on 9 Now Later, we send the family to the park, to a nature park, and the kids get to have an up-close animal encounter.
Who's going to be feeding the penguins today? All right, so we'll need Brooklyn in with one parent.
So let's just put this out there. For parents who are dealing with kids 9 and older,
Yep.
this shouldn't have been a hard challenge at all, hands down.
Probably not, but for younger children, everyone wants to have a go. And what's really going on is only one kid gets to do it. Everyone else has to watch.
And the teen parents, out of all of the families, have 6 children.
They've got 6 kids, but their whole thing is we operate as a team. But the little ones just couldn't stand, understandably, that an older sibling was going to get to pat the furry animal and not them.
Well, yes and no. I actually think the bigger challenge was that Mum and Dad both had a younger sibling in their arms, and Mum had to go in.
Right, so there was some separation as well as the disappointment.
And I think that was actually the bigger challenge.
Here's what happened.
There we go. You're too young to feed the penguins because they'll bite your fingers off. Okay? You have to stop crying. With the team parenting style and managing tantrums, we've got to negotiate that on a daily basis.
Okay, so compare that to what happened with our spiritual parents.
So guys, who do you think? We have to choose one person.
Do you want to feed?
Who should feed?
I think Krishna.
You okay for it?
Yeah. Okay.
So you're okay for Krishna to do it?
Yeah.
All right, so it's
Okay.
you. Let's
Okay.
do it. Yeah? As spiritual parents, selflessness is a very important, integral part of our quality that we try to promote within us.
What does it feel like?
Soft.
Oh, I want to go inside.
I think Midla had a longing to pet, but it did not translate into disappointment. While she didn't get a chance, she also enjoyed watching her and being happy for the brother.
They seem a little bit perfect.
Oh, it was so gorgeous. I love that. So selfless. I mean,
Here's the oldest sibling actually saying, would you like to do it?
I want our kids to watch that and emblazon it on their brain and never forget it and become that. I mean, that was just beautiful.
During the experience, their daughter was looking on with anticipation and almost feeling like she was missing out. It turned into joy as she watched her brother enjoying that experience.
Yeah. So
it was just beautiful.
So the other families, they managed this challenge reasonably well, but we've got to talk about the big emotions that happened with the teen parents and the way that the emotions were shut down.
Don't scream, don't scream. You have to stop crying. Okay, I'm going to take you back to the car then. Well, then you need to stop. Do you not understand that? That's enough now. You need to relax. You need to calm down, okay?
So the way that they dealt with this is reminiscent of what happened last week with the Outback parents when they were pushing their son to jump off the high platform and face his fears. I promised last week we would talk about emotion coaching. This is where we need to. Kids have big emotions, and I love what Larissa, the gentle parent, had to say when everything blew up.
I think what you're saying is when they're crying, it's a moment for you to comfort them and be with them. And it's not necessarily about the behaviour. It's about comforting them in the moment. And maybe there's another chance after that to speak about the behaviour.
Again, though, if every time they want comfort, then are they going to cry to you? Are they going to react that way so you give them a cuddle?
They're 3.
But if they're 3, is that a bad thing?
That's unacceptable. Just because you didn't get what you want does not give you the right to sit there and make everyone else feel bad.
I guess my point here is, why is crying unacceptable?
And then we heard this.
If you're not feeling happy, then being told to be happy is essentially being told to lie.
This led to your big moment on TV.
I took it into my own hands. I was like, I've had enough. I've sat here quietly for nearly 3 episodes. I've got to do something.
There was a fair bit of tension in the room.
I dragged them out of the room, and this is what happened.
There are a couple of ways that we might be able to work with our kids when they're having these big emotions that could be more effective and help your family to function better. But I want to spin the conversation to you for a moment, Leanne.
Yep.
Imagine that you're having a bit of a moment emotionally.
Yeah.
And Mark looks at you and says, Leanne, stop it. Be quiet. That's enough. You need to settle down. Would you look at him and smile and say, good point, honey, I am overreacting?
Oh, no, not at all. No. My Maltese arms would be flying everywhere.
I think my hair would be going this way from the amount of breeze that would be coming from her voice.
Yeah.
When we're talking with our partner or with our kids and they're having a big emotion, other than giving them space, one of the most powerful things that we can do is just to say what we see. There's a phrase that psychologists have been using for decades called, if you can name it, you can tame it. So imagine that Bailey is having this fit and you said, oh, sweetheart, Bailey, you're so upset because you're not getting to feed the penguins. And then you don't say another word. How much do you respond then?
She might start to probably slow down a bit because she knows that I know she's upset and the reasons why.
How did they deal with that? Because obviously in the beginning, I definitely got a sense that they felt like they'd just been pulled into the headmaster's office. They definitely softened, but how did that actually go in real life?
So well. Not only did it go well, but I mean, we filmed this across a number of days. And once I'd given them that instruction, because we were filming in Sydney and that's where they're from, they said, oh, we're going to go home and try this tonight. And the next day when they came back into the studio, they said, you wouldn't believe it. Last night we went home and there was some big emotions and we did what you said. And I thought, I'm nervous. I'm so nervous. And they actually, like Leanne almost started crying. She said, we got results like we've never had in our lives because we were kind to our children's emotional state rather than trying to get them to stop it.
This is a conversation that I've had and I've heard you have so many times with parents from the point of view that we think that to acknowledge our children's emotions takes time.
And that it's going to feed the emotion and make it bigger. Both of those things.
And yet every time we acknowledge it, it dissipates so much quicker and without fanfare, unlike the times where we don't.
Right. I mean, it's just amazing. And Mark and Leanne had that experience. The teen parents had that. We didn't get to show it on screen, obviously, because it happened in their own home later that night. But this is what I really want to help parents to understand. When your kids are having a big emotion, there's no point fighting with it. There's no point telling them to stop it. There's no point telling them to calm down. This is what I really want parents to understand. I just can't think of a single time where getting mad at your child for their emotion is going to help them to regulate it better.
Or telling them to calm down.
It doesn't help them to regulate it better. What helps them to regulate it better is softness, kindness, gentleness, compassion. And when we say what we see, I mean, I use that exact line in the intervention. You got to say what you see. You're feeling real mad. You're feeling so frustrated. You hate your sister right now. And then they say, oh, you get it. And you can say, yeah, bring it in here. Come and give me a hug. Let's work this out. And you can't do the problem solving until you bring the emotions down.
Well, one of the best lines out of this episode was from you, and you said
thank you.
Greatest human need is not to be loved. It's to be understood.
You're taking notes.
Of course I'm taking notes.
Hey, JR, let's play that.
The greatest human need is not to be loved, but to be understood.
Can't believe it. You couldn't take it from me. You just wanted everyone to hear you saying it. You said it first. Is that what this is?
No. It's not like that at all.
But it's so true. It's so true. And if we go back to that line where we were talking about the fact that to tell your child to be happy or to act happy is to actually teach them to lie.
Yeah.
What it does also, though, is it makes us second guess how we're feeling. And the internal dialogue becomes, why are you being so silly? Why have you got such big emotions around this? No one else would have big emotions around this.
When I think of the Outback parents and the pushing to face your fears in last week's episode, once again, here's this little guy, 6 years old, doesn't want to jump off the platform. A big hug, buddy. This is really scary, isn't it? When you look over there, you just think this is too much. Come here. I got you.
Sometimes I feel like we just have expectations of our kids that are so unrealistic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So unrealistic.
But
Because
we don't have unrealistic expectations of parents when it comes to knowing their anatomy.
That was a really good segue.
Let's talk
Holy
about
smokes.
this. Let's talk about this. So
How is it that you can have mums in the room who can't even name their own anatomy?
now let's not mum shame here. We're not going to get into mum shaming, but I think that it's a legitimate question to say, do you know how your body works? And we need to address this.
This is a generational problem.
For those who missed it, we had there was a big thing about pornography and explicit material. We're going to have to discuss that Thursday because we're already out of time on today's podcast. But we've got to talk about the challenge where the parents had a conversation with the kids about reproductive systems and how bodies work.
Do your kids know where babies come from?
Let's find out. You're going to test your kids on anatomy and reproduction.
They weren't even having the sex conversation.
No,
it literally was about naming body parts.
Yeah, put the tag on the body where it belongs.
What is the correct name for a girl's external private parts?
The reproductory system.
No. What is it?
Can Ellery answer that one?
I love the line about salad dressings.
Do we all know what this is? No.
It looks like that sauce. Areola? Aola?
Aioli.
That was a good one. But I think the bigger issue with this, and unfortunately Mark and Leanne end up looking not so great out of this one, although the spiritual parents, Deepak and Kajal, also didn't come out too well. Here's what happened.
Okay, tell me, where does the babies come from?
Oh,
Yeah, show me.
they come from the belly,
And how did they come out?
the mouth.
I think it was good to test them out first.
Yes.
To see what they knew. What's the girl's private part?
Come on, Miguel, try.
Starts with V.
Try. Venus.
No. Let's go try.
Generationally speaking,
Yeah.
this is a conversation that parents have not been comfortable having with their children, but specifically with girls.
Which is really concerning because
Boys.
when we look at consent issues, when we look at all of the stuff around violence and safety, and girls are the ones who are the most affected.
Well, girls' lives can change in an instant.
Right.
A boy loses his virginity. There's no impact to his life in a physical sense. To a girl, that one decision could alter her entire life. And
Yeah, I'm going to soften that. The repercussions can be much heavier for girls in typical circumstances. There are some times where
Kat talked about that.
Yeah,
the influencer, she talked about and acknowledged the challenges that existed from becoming a single parent at 17.
So I didn't say this in the show, and I wish I had. But if you have children who are old enough to be intimate, then they need to understand two things before they understand anything else. They need to understand consent, and they need to understand condoms. They need to understand those two things at the very least. That's the beginning. They're the two most fundamental things. Because otherwise, well, we heard what happened with Kat. And she was so dignified in the way that she dealt with her past on national television. I love Jonathan and Kat. They're such a great family.
They really are.
But can we please talk about, well, first of all, the vagina chant.
Deepak, are you now comfortable with the V word?
Yes.
Okay. Because I just want to know, we could do a bit of a vagina chant if you want. Come on, it's a team building exercise.
Because of the way the male anatomy works,
Right.
from a very early age,
You know it's there.
you know it's there.
You know what it is and you know what it does.
And you work out pretty quickly what makes it go up and down.
Right. Among other things, yes, you do.
For a woman,
Yeah.
it's not so obvious.
Yeah, because it's not obvious to be seen and you don't necessarily know what it all does.
And there's a lot more going on
Yeah.
in our bodies
There probably is.
than there is
Yep.
for a male.
Yep.
And yet we don't have
not probably, there definitely
conversations with our girls about all of that and to help them understand that their bodies are normal and flipping amazing.
I love what Philippa said.
Normalise it, celebrate our bodies. Like, our bodies are amazing. Like, my kids know when I have my period. Like, This shouldn't be something that's weird or gross. These are our normal, amazing bodies.
I love how much you care about this, Kylie. And I had the same feelings as I was watching it back. I thought, wow, we have got to have these conversations with our kids.
I want my girls growing up knowing how amazing their bodies are, how they work and why they feel the way they do and why their body responds the way it does. That it's not something to be ashamed of, that it's not something that they have to hide.
No, how to get maximum joy out of that body. How to get maximum joy out of it.
I want them to have all of the experiences that will bring them joy and happiness in their lives. And their body is a huge part of that.
Hindus were the creators of Kama Sutra. It's quite a oxymoron that we don't discuss it.
Kylie, Parental Guidance gives you the opportunity to talk to your kids about all of the good stuff and all the hard stuff. There's so much that we haven't even touched on. We haven't talked about the car reversing challenge, listening to your kids' voices. We didn't talk about pornography. We're going to have to push those both to Thursday.
That's a whole nother episode.
I know. And we've still got tonight's episode, episode 4, which I know we won't cover all of tomorrow. But gee whiz, I love the conversation. I still feel like we've barely scratched the surface today, but we have to wrap it there. Thank you so much for listening. We hope that you're loving Parental Guidance on Channel 9 and catching up on 9 Now. And for those of you who haven't been able to see the show, but you're following along with the podcast, we really hope that you're loving the podcast and it's giving you plenty to think about. Once again, big thanks to Justin Rulon from Bridge Media, our producer, for making the podcast sound great, and for Craig Bruce for doing so much heavy lifting to help us to get to a point that we can talk about it in ways that work. They are integral to the podcast working. We'll be back tomorrow with more on the Happy Families podcast. Don't forget, episode 4, Channel 9, tonight, 7:30.